Hi, welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm Judith Patterson. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in Texas, and today I'm going to show you how to make a card from the catalog using caroling mice. This adorable stamp set is a host set in the July to December mini catalog. So if you place an order reaching $150 or more, then you can use your rewards to get this set or the Celebrate Everything designer series paper that's also for Host in the mini catalog. And then of course there are things in the annual catalog too that you can get with that. Or you can use those rewards in other ways. It's up to you. Okay, so let me go ahead and flip the camera around and I'll just show you. This is the mini catalog, so I'm going to flip all the way to the back where it's talking about Host and rewards. And you can host a party to get this, or you could just make, if you have a big wish list, you can make the order yourself. It is totally up to you if you just really need to have this in your stamping stash, which of course I did. I think it is too cute, and I love this designer series paper that has all these different seasons and holidays included in it. So this is the only card example in the catalog that I have found using this stamp set, and it is too cute. So I thought that I would share with you how to create this card. I am changing some things. So they used the watercolor pencils to color in this example. I'm not going to use those very much. I am using my black watercolor pencil, but for the rest of it I decided I'm going to use a water painter with the Fluid 100 watercolor paper, and I'm just using ink pads for my ink. So I'll show you how to do that real quick. I'm going to start by using my Stamparatus to stamp this. I want a nice dark image, so I decided to use the Stamparatus. I don't have the mat down. I am going to hold this grid paper in place with my little broken magnet here. These magnets are super strong, and if you're not careful, they'll slap up against each other and that can cause them to crack. So I have washi tape or craft tape on the ends of all of my magnets. It makes them easier to pick up, and it also protects the ends a little bit, especially if they've already been broken. So this piece of watercolor paper is 5.5 inches by 3.25 inches, and I can fit all of my pieces that I'm using, all of my stamps, right here on this one piece of paper with a little bit of room left over. Now if you have scraps, you could definitely use your scraps. I'm going to really set that magnet on there to hold it in place. I'm going to place another one right here. Okay, so I'm going to use my top plate to lift all of this up at once. And you can, if you prefer to use, you can just use your regular blocks to stamp with. This one is large, so you're going to need a bigger block than I typically use. This block is block E. That is really good for that larger stamp. So I'm using my StazOn ink. I always store my StazOn upside down, and I do keep this protective plastic on it all the time. Okay, I just refilled the ink on this last night, so hopefully it's good and inked up. Okay, so that's pretty faded. So I'm going to go ahead and restamp. This is why I love using my Stamparatus. So I just re-inked everything. and I'm going to stamp again. Something else that you can do if you don't have the Stamparatus and you don't want to stamp multiple times, go ahead and use that lighter image do all of your watercoloring or coloring in. And then you can use the black Stampin' Up marker, use the fine tip end, and you can trace over all these lines after you get it colored, and it gives it a nice dark outline that way. So I'm getting some good outlines. My Stays On is pretty old, and I probably did not ink it up quite enough. And this watercolor paper it's not smooth like our normal cardstock is. It's a little rough, or it's just a thicker watercolor paper. It holds the water really well. I think I'm going to do the mice and the lantern one more time. So I do recommend that you use Stays On when doing anything with watercolor. Stays On is an alcohol-based ink, so it won't run when you're adding water to your paper. Memento is really good if you're using Stampin' Blends, because the Stampin' Blends are alcohol-based and the Memento is not, so it won't smear whenever you're coloring with your alcohol blends. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. So if you want to hang around till the end, I am also going to I'll share how to clean that Stays On. You don't want to clean it the same way that you clean your other inks. Okay, so I'm going to start with my soft suede. I'm squeezing it in the center to make sure I have plenty of ink here in the lid. Then I have my smaller water painter. I'm just going to squeeze some water into the tip. So I'm starting with the darker shade of soft suede. I'm going to do this mouse in the middle. I'm going to squeeze a little bit extra water in now to lighten it up some, and I will color in this other mouse. Okay, I'm going to add still a tiny bit more of water to make it even lighter, and do the third and final mouse with this really light shade of soft suede. For me, I find it's easier to go from dark to light when watercoloring, but you can also, of course, go from light to dark. You just keep adding a little bit more color. Okay, so to clean it, I have a paper towel here. I'm just going to squeeze the ink out and rub it back and forth on my paper towel until the tip is clean and the water is clear. So next up, I have my Granny Apple Green. I've already got plenty of ink in the lid of this one, so I didn't have to squeeze it. I'm going to start with the tree. you're right-handed, it is a good idea to start on the left and work your way towards the right, just so you don't accidentally smear your hand through the wet watercolor. Okay, I'm going straight for this darker ink up here that doesn't have tons of water in it, so that I can get his scarf pretty dark. Okay, then I'm going to add a little bit more water to lighten it up some. And I'm going to do his jacket with the very pale granny apple green. Okay, so got my Pacific point. So this guy's hat is pretty dark. There we go. Add a little bit of water. Actually, just a dot of water. Go a little bit lighter and do this jacket here. Okay, I'm going to add a skosh more water to get even lighter. Squeezing the water out of the tip, it also cleans your tip just a little bit, so you get rid of some of that darker color that's already in your tip. Okay, so now I'm using real red. I'm going to start pretty dark. With the bow. Well, that wasn't dark at all, was it? There we go. Nice and dark red going right there. Okay, I'm going to keep it dark going down here on the ribbon. Right now I'm going to lighten it up some, so I'm just adding a bit of water, adding some more ink into my palette there. Do this right here. Getting a little darker again to do his scarf. Gonna go just a little bit darker to do this hat right here. Then I'm gonna go lighter. I'm gonna test it. Okay, that looks good. So this jacket will be the lighter real red. And you can see here where I got too much water and so it kind of bled. I may go back over that a little bit with the green and the soft suede here in a minute. Okay, so I'm going to add even more water and make this really light. Cleaning out my brush tip just a little bit so that I can pick up some very, very light red, because I want to use that for their ears. So I'm going to clean my brush some more, just go over that ear again with some clear water and see if I can button that up just a skosh. There we go, that's good. That's nice and pale. Okay, and then if you like, you could also go over their cheeks a little bit and just give a hint of a blush on their cheeks. I'm going to use that soft suede. Okay, so that goes to show it's important to make sure that the touching colors are pretty dry and that you don't have too much water in the tip of your water painter whenever you are adding new colors. That way you don't get that bleeding effect like I just did. Okay, so this is Daffodil Delight. So I'm going to just go over the lantern here a little bit. Get this nice yellow color in there for the light. And finally, I'm cleaning my water painter. And then I'm going to grab that basic black watercolor pencil. You want to make sure, like I said, that it's dry around their noses. Add a little bit of this color. And then this should be dry, so I'm going to start at the bottom and work my way up on this lantern pole. Be careful that as you're moving your paper around, you don't accidentally smear it in any water that you have on your grid paper here. Getting just a little bit of water on my tip. I'll start with their noses. Okay. Then I'll go up this pole. So now it's time to grab my paper snips and trim around all of these pieces. So I like to start by cutting each one out just roughly so that I have less paper to deal with as I'm cutting more precisely. So it is possible to trim around their feet pretty closely and their tails. I don't recommend doing it for two reasons. One, it's possible, but it's a little tedious. But also, it doesn't give you very much surface to put your adhesive. And I would worry that your tail might get kind of snag on something and maybe break off. And that would be a shame to get this far into it and then lose your tail. I have a 3.5 inch by 4 3/4 inch piece of basic white cardstock. So I'm going to use my stamp, cut, and emboss machine. Plate 1 with the Merry Melody embossing folder. I'm turning it upside down because I like to use this little line here at the bottom to make sure that my cardstock is straight going in. And then I'm going to use plate 4 on top of that. It's a tight fit with this camera. There we go. So I love that embossing. Okay, so I'm going to set that to the side and pull out my plates 2 and my plate 3. These are well used plates. And then I have this little strip from Celebrate Everything Designer Series paper. So I'm going to use that. This is 1 1/4 inches by 4 1/4 inches. And I have a little bit of Post-it tape here. I'm trying to get it where you can see what I'm doing. Okay, so I'm centering this up, and then I'm putting it where the edge of this scallop is right at the edge of my DSP. And I'm going to use the washi tape to hold everything down. This is not the border that is used in the catalog. In the catalog, they use basic border dies for this. I don't have those dies, so I thought, what could I do to improvise? And this is what I came up with, and I really like the way it turned out. So I'm putting another plate on top, just running that through at a weird angle. So I'm finished with my Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. This is the standard, the larger machine. I'm just folding it up and putting it out of the way. And then this is how that piece turned out. Just poking all of the extra bits out of that. And then I have another piece of 1 1/4 by 4 1/4 piece of that Celebrate Everything Designer Series paper. So I'm just going to put a little bit of liquid glue here on the back of this piece with the scalloped edge. I'm just making sure that's lined up perfectly. So in the catalog, they used a 1/3 piece of this Designer Series paper. I am not going to do another layer. I like it just like this. So what I am going to do is get a Pool Party card base. You can have one that opens at the top or on the side. I'm going for the top crease. And I'm going to use Stampin' Dimensionals to attach this piece to my card base. Okay, I'm going to use that liquid glue again. This time I'm going to put the glue on the bottom, I guess the bottom third of this, and not all the way out to the edges, because it's just going to kind of be floating down here on the bottom. But you want this edge to line up with this side and the right edge to line up with the right side as much as possible. And only be about a ½ inch or so from the bottom of your basic white piece. So that looks pretty straight. And then I'm going to use I'm going to use 2 Stampin' Dimensionals on the top of this lantern. And I'm going to pull out that liquid glue again for the bottom, just a smidge down here on the tip. Now I'm going to tuck that right underneath this piece. Put it right there. Okay, so this one I'm going to put a little bit of liquid glue behind this tall guy's nose for sure, so I can put my tree right here. So a little bit behind this hat and a little bit behind his nose. Whoops. There we go. So now I'm going to use Stampin' Dimensionals again to attach this piece. Okay, for this final bit, I'm using Merry Christmas from Framed Festive. You could also use From All of Us, or any other small greeting that you have on hand. Really like this Framed Festive set. So I'm stamping with Versamark, just on a scrap piece of basic black. I'm going to use white embossing powder. Then I'm just going to use those paper snips again to trim along one side, then the other side. Going to trim off the ends a little. Then I'm just going to cut towards the center from each corner to make a little banner. Usually I measure this out and find the center and make a little dot with a pencil and cut towards it. But this time I'm just winging it, and we're going to see how that turns out. Okay, it's not perfect, but it's not bad. So I think what I'm going to do, you could use Stampin' Dimensionals. I think I am just going to use liquid glue and place it right here. There we go. And then they used adhesive-backed seasonal sequins as their finishing touch. I am going to use elegant faceted gems because that's what I have. So I'm going to use the white ones. Can tell I really like these because I am almost out of them. I'm going to have to place an order and get some more. There we go. There's our card from the catalog. And let me pull out that catalog so that you can see the comparison. There we go. So one more thing for the inside, I would use a piece of basic white cardstock. This is 4 inches by 5 1/4 inches. And then I would maybe add another tree to the inside. Go ahead and color that and cut it out. Or the lantern. Or if you have a piece of leftover designer series paper, you could put that at the bottom or the top or along the side. There's plenty of options for you. Okay, and before I forget, let me show you how to clean that StazOn off of these stamps. So first off, I recommend going ahead and putting it on a block just because it's a little bit easier to handle that way. Take your StazOn cleaner and a paper towel. Go ahead and rub that on your stamp. Blot it off with a paper towel. And I always wipe off the tip as well. Then I clean it again. The paper towel. I get as much of that off of there as I can. And then to make sure that the stamp is completely clean and to condition it some. I don't know what is up with my camera today, but it has been doing some really weird and unfortunate things. I cleaned my, oh boy. Okay, so I had cleaned my Stampin' Scrub, just one side of it last night. I always use this side to clean off the ink, and then I use this side to dry. So this one had gotten pretty messy. So I just put a little bit of dish soap on it and washed it until it was clean in the sink. So I'm using my Stampin' Mist on this side, and then I'm going to just rub that stamp over it. And look how clean that is. So then I'm just going to give it a buff on this other side, make sure it's dry and everything is off. And we're good to go. So that helps condition it and clean it, but you don't want to do that step until you've already gotten the StazOn off. This will not just clean StazOn by itself. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope that you were inspired today. If there's a card from the catalog that you would like to see made on one of these videos, then let me know. If you have questions about making a card from the catalog, maybe with a different stamp set or a different color scheme, I would love to give that a try for you and show you how it might be done. Just send me a message and I'll get right on that. And if you are in the US and you saw something on this video that you need to add to your Stampin' collection, then you can use my link in the description below if you don't already have a demonstrator, and use that to place an order for my online shop. I would really appreciate that. And yeah, thanks for watching. I hope you have a great week. Happy stamping.